A woman tells us she feels unsafe, this after finding racist flyers on Longmont's Main Street. The Boulder County DA says while it's reprehensible, charges won't be filed.
This is unprecedented.
Nationwide, supply chain issues are affecting so many different industries. It's even trickling down to school lunches. School leaders are pivoting to keep kids fed.
We're having to really be nimble and think on our feet.
The Denver Broncos finished September unbeaten. How long can it last? Well, our Broncos insider joins us breaking down the injuries that could keep the team from performing at peak level. 4 o'clock at 9 News starts now. We start at 4 o'clock with flyers with a racial slur found in Longmont late last week. And the Boulder County District Attorney's Office says the culprit should be ashamed of themselves.
And while police know who did it, there's really not much they can do about it. Jaleesa Irizarry spoke to the DA to find out why.
Main Street, Longmont looks like any other. Shops line the streets, people fill the sidewalks, but an aching feeling fills their hearts.
So it's just hard to know that people in the community think that just you existing doesn't matter.
Alicia Munoz has lived in Longmont for 3 years. Late last week, she saw the flyer everyone was talking about. The one, police say, was distributed to a number of downtown businesses and had a racial slur on it.
It's a little emotional. Sorry. It gets a little emotional because I don't want to live in fear, but I also have to be cautious.
Longmont police investigated the incident, interviewed the person they believe distributed those 11 flyers, and sent the information to the Boulder County DA.
Believe me, I would share the community members' reaction to this flyer being absolutely outrageous, and it is, but it's not criminal in nature.
District Attorney Michael Doherty says because the flyer didn't target an individual and the suspect didn't trespass or cause any damage to property, the language is constitutionally protected, so no charges were filed.
Although the flyers are protected by the First Amendment and by free speech protections, doesn't mean we have to tolerate this conduct.
Jeremy Shaver with the Anti-Defamation League agrees with the DA. This is not an instance where charges could be filed. But Shaver says this is an instance that should prompt a conversation.
Even if a crime wasn't committed, there's still an impact to it, right? So that's why it's important for elected officials, public officials, community leaders, neighbors to stand up and say, we will not tolerate hate in whatever form it takes.
A stand Munoz hopes more people take.
I just really wish that they would do better.
As she reflects about Longmont's old Main Street with a new perspective.
It's just not something that I really like to have to worry about.
Jaleesa Irizarry, 9 News.
The Colorado chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations condemned the flyers today. In a statement, they said they stand in solidarity with all those targeted by racist intimidation. Schools are dealing with as well. Safe to Tell says they've received more discrimination tips so far this school year than in previous years. From August 1st through last Monday, September 20th, Safe to Tell received 25 tips statewide regarding discrimination. In the same time period last year, they received 17 discrimination tips. 2019, they received 16 reports of discrimination, and in 2018, just 6. One parent says the threat to her student went too far. Parents say students at a school in Northglenn made a kill list.
9 News reporter Nelson Garcia spoke with the parent of one of those students on the list, who says that she feels the school isn't doing enough to protect students. At the STEM Lab school in Northglenn, a group of 7th grade girls made a list of students they wanted to kill, according to parents.
And my son was one of the students on that list, as well as 7 other students. They go here at STEM.
Jessica Strobel says this is a screenshot of the group text with the 5 girls, where one of them said, quote, "We should make a list of people we want to kill," and named 8 students total.
I felt sick to my stomach and wondered what was going to happen next, and if the school was, going to expel these students or suspend, or wasn't sure.
What happened next was a school assembly, Strobel says, and she was told a 1-day suspension for the girls who made the kill list.
I don't agree with the 1-day suspension. I think we live in a time where, especially in Colorado, where that should be unacceptable.
STEM Lab sent this letter home to parents, which reads in part, quote, "We immediately consulted with our law enforcement partners and district security team, who conducted an investigation and determined that these threats were not credible."
Absolutely horrible, and terrified for my son.
Strobel says her son has yet to come back to school since the kill list was made last week.
There should be a little bit more severity of, we don't joke around like this, we don't talk like this, our school doesn't stand for this, and that looks like giving support to the victims and not solely focusing on these kids who made the list need to come back to school ASAP.
Strobel isn't sure if her son will ever come back here. They're considering transferring. In North Glen, Nelson Garcia, 9 News. STEM Lab is in the Adams 12 five-star school district. Nelson reached out to Adams 12 for comment. The district said they didn't want to say anything further. This afternoon, R. Kelly was found guilty on all counts in the high-profile sex trafficking case. A jury in federal court finding him guilty on a count of racketeering and 8 counts of violating the Mann Act. That's the law that bars the transport of people across state lines for any immoral purpose. Prosecutors say the disgraced R&B star was a serial sexual predator who abused young women and underage girls and boys for more than 2 decades. The trial included hours of graphic testimony from his accusers. The sentencing for R. Kelly now set for May 4th.
We're taking a live look outside on this last Monday of September, and it's hot. The heat is on again. Danielle's in the Weather Center with a first look at the forecast. Somebody just turned the heat way up and just left it there.
I blame Tom.
Oh,
I do too. I blame him myself.
I mean, what
You
the
accept it?
heck?
Yeah, totally. If Danielle says it, it's got to be true.
Of course.
100%, right? Oh my gosh, you guys. Back-to-back days in the upper 80s, lower 90s here for most of eastern Colorado, but I promise some really nice relief is on the way. Cooler temperatures and some rain. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Across the state, you can see those numbers in the lower 90s right now in Fort Collins and Greeley, even warmer in Ray at 95. We're still holding steady at 89 out at DIA with some 70s and 80s up into the mountains this afternoon. We will be looking at increasing clouds as we go throughout the rest of the night, but temperatures still extremely mild. 7 o'clock, you're walking the dog, low 80s out there. You can see a few of those clouds beginning to build in. They're primarily up in the mountains as we speak, and also we're monitoring a few isolated showers, some thunderstorms too, kind of rumbling across the San Luis Valley toward Alamosa and also through the San Juans near Durango. We are looking at this area of low pressure. It is just to our south into New Mexico. It will slowly be cruising to the northeast into Colorado and be impacting pretty much everyone tomorrow. So tomorrow will kind of be our transition day as we await a stronger storm that moves in on Wednesday. So tonight it's really going to be a lovely evening for you. Tomorrow I will be watching out for a couple of storms, primarily in the afternoon, early evening, and then as we look ahead toward Wednesday, that big cool off arrives plus more rain. I'll break it all down, guys, coming up in a few minutes.
Okay, the nights are cooler, that's for sure. Right now, more than 3.7 million Coloradans have some protection against COVID-19. Nearly 59% of the people in our state are fully vaccinated with 2 shots of Pfizer, Moderna, or 1 shot of Johnson & Johnson. Another 5% are still waiting on that second dose. The state is not yet releasing data on how many people have gotten the 3rd shot, the booster. The deadline is coming up this week for Denver City and County employees to report their vaccination status. If they don't get the vaccine or have an approved exemption by Wednesday, they could lose their jobs. 7 Denver police officers filed a lawsuit over that mandate. We're looking into when that might be headed to court.
Denver Nuggets are going back to work, opening up training camp this week. But this afternoon, the big news came from ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, who says the Nuggets have signed Michael Porter Jr. to a new max deal, and it could be worth more than $200 million over 5 years. It also means the Nuggets now have their core 4 players all locked up. The season's almost here. Preseason games start a week from tonight. Rod will have more on this coming up at 5 o'clock. Staying with sports, bad news for the Broncos today. KJ Hamler is down and out. Our Broncos insider Mike Kliss confirming today the second-year receiver tore his ACL in that play. That knee injury a season ender for Hamler. One of several injuries actually plaguing the Broncos, dampening the fast start so far. They started the regular season 3-0 after yesterday's 26-0 win over the New York Jets.
Like yesterday, we were hearing it might not be that bad. That was just a bummer. this morning
Yeah.
because he's just having a great season.
He was starting to really emerge, and one of the cool things that you saw with KJ Hamler, give you an idea of what he brought to this team, was when Teddy Bridgewater became the starter, he had them move Hamler's locker next to him. He was trying to help this young guy become a great pro. Now he'll also get the opportunity to help him through something else, something that Teddy Bridgewater knows well, a devastating knee injury right in the young part of your career. Teddy Bridgewater's overcome it. He can hopefully help KJ Hamler as well as he tries to get through it in the same fashion.
They can lean on each other both ways. So
we'll get
wishing him the best.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to talk more about that and the injuries to the offensive line as well. Our Broncos insider Mike Kliss will be joining us just after 4:30.